Hey, you guys. I am looking through Genesis again because I saw a video, but before I share the video, because he's talking about, end times and the things he's saying, it's Joel Richardson, but I don't totally understand his stuff, but I'm sure if some of these people like him and Alan Nolan ever but I can't sit down with them. But if they explain some things to me, I understand, of course. Well, anyway, so but some of the things he's saying, he did mention Ezekiel 38 happening like at the beginning of the trib, which I don't wait a minute. um I don't know. So anyway, so the his video brought me back to Genesis because it reminded me of some verses. And when I go over Genesis, some of these things, but I'm just going to share with you a few things that, again, I noticed another thing tonight. So the woman in Revelation and all the verses in Isaiah, probably Jeremiah, that talk about the woman in labor. There and I googled the verses because like I shared on my post, Isaiah 40 through 44 or 45, it talks about the men the men are going to be behaving. They're going to be in so much pain. God describes the men as men in labor. Okay, that's the only time I've ever noticed that in the Bible. Usually it's like a woman in labor, the nation, or Jacob's troubles, right? So, but in Isaiah 42, I think it's saying the men, you know, the population. So anyway, I have company, Mr. Grumpy. Um, so anyway, the Revelation is the woman in labor. Okay, Isaiah, it talks about labor pains. Now, go back to Genesis. Eve, she will be saved in labor. You will, okay, and then there's other things I've noticed, but I haven't really thought them fully through yet. But notice this also: the earth was without form and it was void. When you're buying something and you say, I don't want that voided out, meaning it's non existent. I don't know if that's what they teach, but that's what I feel like it reads like, that the earth is formless. It has no form because it's not even existent. Okay, it's void. Now, then it goes on to say the deep. I forget how it words, but it says the deep. And then it says the spirit of the spirit or the spirit of God was upon the waters. It didn't say and God created the waters anywhere. The waters were just there. The deep, over the face of the deep was there. That's just void, right? So everything was without form and void. It was void. It was empty. There was nothing except the face of the deep and the waters. In Revelation, the dragon spews out water. What else was I relating that to? Okay, so that's the first time. So in the beginning was God. And then John 1:1, in the beginning was God, and the Word, He spoke, the world. Okay, and then, okay, so one thing was leading me to another, and another to another, as usual. But, okay, so you can almost see the Trinity. I haven't found Jesus yet, but God is it says, in the beginning, God created. And then the next time you'll see God is the Spirit upon the waters. And then, maybe it's this. Well, no, it's not. But so anyway, I was just pointing that out, that God is in the beginning. And then it mentions the Holy Spirit, because it says the Spirit was upon the waters. But the waters were already there, right? And then I forgot what that brought me to. But anyway, then, so like Cain, I'm thinking his offering was because see, Adam, his punishment was the sweat of his brow. He's got to till the land. Okay, but back up then also, because oh, well, never mind. I forgot what I was going to say. But like the snake, the serpent, he says, oh, because Adam says, oh, because God said, because you listened to your wife. Now, see, go back to the wedding in Canaan when Jesus says, woman, why are you doing that? It's not my time yet. And he calls her woman. Well, Pastor Alan Nolan had a great sermon about going into this woman thing. That was a term of highest respect and deepest endearment. Okay, so it's today we think it's kind of rude, woman. Well, okay, but notice Adam says, the woman offered it to me, and the woman says, the snake beguiled me. So when Adam says the woman gave, okay, so go back to Jesus. I give you life. I give you living water. I give. So Adam says Eve gave. She was doing a nice thing, right? But Adam was standing right beside her. And Adam, isn't he like a form of God? He's like the Son of God. Like Alan Nolan went over this, like last Sunday, something about the genealogies. And then when you compare the two genealogies in the two Gospels, the one is going by somebody's one side of genealogy, and the other one is going by the other side of their genealogy. And then the one says, and Adam, the Son of God, or something like that. Okay, so where was I going with this? Was so Adam, if he's like an image of God, which he is, and he's standing there, and instead, well, the snake, first of all, why doesn't he offer them the tree of life? He offers them the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but he didn't offer them of the tree of life, probably because he knew that the whole thing would be, God would destroy everything before it even began. I don't know. But so Adam says, he's hearing the serpent talk too, but he's not speaking up, and he is the head of the household. And God said, not out of rudeness. He didn't say that out of rudeness to say, because you listened to your wife. He's basically saying it like, well, you obeyed instead of I think I already said this when I went over the book of Genesis. This is how I feel, because I went over like Samuel, let the Lord judge between me and thee, and all this. So he, as God said, because you didn't stand up, I'm the one that made you first, and I'm the one that made you. I'm the one that told you about the tree of life. I didn't tell her, she wasn't here yet. So you should. The serpent beguiled her while Adam was standing there. The serpent beguiled, tricked, influenced Eve, and Adam did not stand up. So, in other words, God is more or less saying, because you listened to your wife instead of standing up for her and saying, don't do it. That's what he means by that. Okay, then the second thing is, so there was something about the end and then the beginning about the seed, but I forgot, I think. But it's like, the seed, her seed, which is Jesus. Darn, I forgot. But maybe I didn't even really totally figure it out. But anyway, I think Cain, because by the sweat of his brow, Adam, and a few other things. Oh, and then like Eve, that your desire will be for your husband. I think that means something other than what we've all been told, you know. But as far as the serpent is the beast of the field. Now he has no legs, so he is eating dirt. He is slithering along the ground. I think Cain is an image of also Judas, because Cain gets marked. Just like the beast is a mark, okay? Just like the beast is the serpent. And the ground is cursed, okay? The earth opened up its mouth, to take Abel's blood, okay? And just like the earth is going to open up and swallow up the water that the dragon spews out in Revelation. But the beast he's cursed of the ground, and the ground is cursed, and they're having to till it from the sweat of their brow. So when Cain got his crop, he probably is eating it as he goes, and he's eating the most beautiful of his fruits that he's supposed to be tithing, the most beautiful and the best and the first, right? Also go back to Adam and Eve in the garden. When they got banished and they started having kids, they taught their kids what happened in the garden. They taught their kids what it was like in the garden. They taught Cain and Abel and their kids everything. And then think about Cain is probably thinking, oh, well, mom and dad taught me about this. I want to try this fruit. I want to eat this. And he wasn't tithing it. He was eating the prettiest instead of, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter. It's not like, what do you call it? Heresy. It's not like proven, but I'm just speculating and imagining things that might be what it was like back then. And then when Adam and Eve sinned and God said, he asked them, remember in my other video I said, well, God knew. Why is God asking? Well, that's the first confession. He knew. Yeah, he did know, but he wanted them to confess their sin. That's why he that's why he asked them to provoke them to confess. But then go to Cain. When God asked him, where's your brother? His blood is crying out from the earth. And Cain says, what am I, my brother's keeper? Bad attitude. Bad attitude. Number one. Number two, no confession. Hiding. Adam and Eve, when God said, where are you? They eventually confessed. They said, we have hidden. We hid. Okay, they confessed that they hid. Cain doesn't confess he's hiding anything. He's covering up instead of confessing. He's hiding. He's basically being an asshole, very first asshole in the Bible. He is basically saying, who cares? I don't have to answer to you, God. I don't have to confess that I killed him like mom and dad confessed that they're naked. I'm not going to do what my mom and dad did. They taught me all about that. And I don't care. I'm not going to act like a wimp like they are. I'm going to smart mouth you. I'm going to talk back and I'm going to say I'm my brother's keeper. And then God is saying, yeah, well, you're an asshole. And Satan's another thing. Sin lies at the door. Jesus is the door. You lay your sins at his feet, and Satan, his sin, Cain's sin, is lying at Jesus' feet. Oh, wait a minute. Did I already think about that before? And I realized I could. That's not how it goes because God said it's lying at the door, and it is going, its desire is for you. Its sin's desire is for you, just like 2 Timothy 2:26. You go read that. Satan's desire is to hold us captive at his will when we disobey and let him in the door. When we disobey, we're letting him in the door. He's always at the door. The door is Jesus, maybe, and if we, I don't know, maybe it's not. I forgot how I thought that out, but so Cain was never remorseful. And like I said in my other video, he gets a mark for what he did bad, and he's not remorseful. Instead, he's like, oh, boo-hoo, but now they're going to kill me. They're always they're alive and well today. Evil people like this, like Cain. I'm wondering, and I don't know enough, but I wonder if Judas, because he hung himself, he was unrepentant, unconfessing. I wonder if he finished what Cain had done. You know how God will finish something and then it'll be finished, like whatever, I don't know. So because Cain, and then if you ever reread Cain's sons, okay, so God says, cursed is the ground for you, Cain. So then you notice all his children, that's probably how all this stuff got invented, like smiths, iron and ironworks, weapons, music, musical instruments. Now, when it gives Seth's children, I don't remember if they do the same things. But if you've noticed, Seth's children and Cain's children, there are some names that are very similar to each other. So Seth is the good kid, and he named his kids what he named them, and Cain named his kids, and those kids' names are very similar. Very similar. Like they copied. Well, Seth is younger, so... But anyway, those are just a couple of things, and I'm still going over some other things, but... And then like this, Ezekiel 38, if it happens... Okay, so... And then it popped into my head today, which... Okay, well, like, I watch these channels. I watch all my channels I like, but I haven't lately because I just feel like sometimes I feel like, you know what, I have gotten the gist of it. I can see things are progressing. We're getting blessed. God is overcoming the evil. Um, victory. We're getting victories. Okay. So plus that, it takes up so much of my time that I don't, I'm not able to read the Bible like I would normally read it. And so, but when that happens, it doesn't mean I don't like those channels. The only channels I don't like anymore are the ones that were like saying Trump is Antichrist and stuff like that. But these channels, I just don't watch them as regularly as I was. But what God does, and even before when I was watching them, and I couldn't always watch them all every day when they would make a video every day. But I've been noticing this for a long time, that God will put one in my feed that I maybe necessarily didn't notice in my thingy to look and see that they have a video. Maybe I would have watched it that day, maybe not. Well, if it's in front of my face on the scroll, I'll go ahead and click it. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't seen. And it seems to be pertaining to something that I was already reading about or thinking about or whatever. So yeah, then like the Joel Richardson video, I had earlier tonight thought about the verse in Thessalonians, First Thessalonians, which is different than Second, obviously, but I mean, you know what I mean. Like Second Thessalonians is for the trib, and First is for, I think, the rapture. So I was thinking about that verse about um, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. So I was thinking about that verse, and then I looked it up just to get a reading again, and then I saw the Joel Richardson video, and I listened, and I think he was kind of talking about that too, and maybe that's even in his title. But I'm like, oh, so I went to read that because it dawned on me tonight about when they say peace and safety. Okay, so Joel's video, which he doesn't believe in the rapture, so but I don't understand why, and but I agree with a lot of this stuff he says. But I'm sure, like I said, if he sat down and explained it, I'd probably understand why, but I still probably wouldn't believe it. But anyway, um, he's a very good detailed teacher because he does put all the verses together like you should. And he will quote a lot of them to put them together out of all those prophetic books, which is very, very, very good. But okay, so we're going to get peace in the Middle East. But what I'm thinking, and I haven't thought it all through yet, so I'm just doing this little tidbit video here. But when there is peace in remember the last video I made where I said, oh, there'll be peace in the world, but it won't be true peace until Jesus comes. And then I said, and that's after the 7-year tribulation, peace on earth. Okay, so let me not bunny trail, my gosh. So and then I was saying there's not going to be peace on earth until Jesus comes, but we can have peace. And then I said something like, and then we'll probably be raptured, the last trump, and Antichrist, who doesn't know he's Antichrist yet for the first 3.5 years, but he will be rising and gaining ground. He's probably going to leave everything Trump did the way it is. I think in my last video, I said maybe he'll tear it up. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll just destroy everything Trump's done. Maybe he won't. But I was thinking, I'm like, no, he's going to leave everything Trump has done. So see, everybody is wanting, there's people, they make me so disgusted. They're like, the gas is high. Are you really that effing shallow? For God's sake, this is about the world, and you're going to worry about gas for 3 months. You freaking fool. Now, so however long this takes, there's probably going to be peace in this Middle East, which will bring peace to the rest of the world, except for the, like that Dr. J said, where there's those sects over in Africa that aren't part of the jihad brotherhood stuff, where they're getting aid, where they're getting funneled money. Okay. Now that's not going to be fixed yet, but when the Middle East, now see, okay, so you guys that are nervous that this will fall through, it's going to be bad if it does. If it doesn't fall through, it's going to be bad also if you are not ready for Jesus to come, or your Mashiach. The Jews are looking for Mashiach. They've been looking for Mashiach to come since day one, just like we've been looking for the rapture since day one. We've been looking for Jesus in the rapture, in the wedding, right? Okay. And Joel, the only thing that's hard to reconcile with the rapture is, okay, Trump, when he fixes up the Middle East and everything's great and there's peace, okay? Peace and safety, then sudden destruction. That is, okay, so the only thing hard to reconcile is when there's a rapture, there's going to be a disappearance. Some say 2% of all Christians who are really faithful. So that makes about 2%, which is about 16 million people of an 8 billion population. Okay, if there's more than that, fine. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. The fact is that there's going to be people that are gone. And whether they say UFOs took them or not, there's still going to be devastation because people are going to freak out that some of their loved ones disappeared all over the world. It's going to be in so thinly spread out that it's not going to be like some mass hysteria where, but still it's going to be like 16 or more million. Was it maybe billion? I don't know. It can't be 16 billion. Okay. So that's the only hard thing I think people have to reconcile. Like, say, people like Joel. Joel, he's like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, is that people disappear and then life goes on. People are going to be traumatized from that. Okay, now, but Ezekiel 38, this 1 Thessalonians, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. That, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. Then sudden destruction doesn't have to happen immediately after peace and safety. It can happen 1 week, which stands for 3.5 years. Peace and safety after the rapture. Because remember, they made a peace with many in Daniel 9 until he broke it after 3.5 years. And that's when everyone's going, oh, run for the hills, and they're turning on each other, and they're saying, oh, the Mashiach is over here, and no, he's over there, and no, he's, okay, from what I think. Well, when they say peace and safety, before the rapture, peace and safety, they sign a peace agreement in Daniel 9. Sudden destruction. No, there's no sudden. The destruction happens suddenly. But it doesn't happen right after peace and safety. You see what I mean? So there's peace and safety for 3.5 years. Then the destruction is sudden. It doesn't mean peace and safety. When they say peace and safety, then bam, everything explodes. That's not what it means. In my interpretation of logic, just like Joel explains, some of these people put stuff together or they want to believe something so badly that it try to make a square peg fit in a round hole, and nothing fits. So that to me doesn't fit. When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction, that doesn't fit, because it doesn't fit with 3.5 years. You listen, there can't be sudden destruction, because who's going to take the mark of the beast? Okay, so what it means is, when they say peace and safety, when destruction hits, it's going to be sudden. It's going to be in the 3.5 years when the two witnesses show up and the Antichrist shows up and he's abominating in the temple, and he's, all the Jews are like, what? Okay, so anyway, I like this Joel guy because he pieces all these verses and matches them up. That's what you're supposed to do, match them up. You're supposed to match everything up. You can't have a dangly thing over here and a dangly thing over there, and then one day you're like, oh, well, what about that and that? And then they don't mesh, okay? The only thing I don't understand about him saying Ezekiel 38 is happening in the beginning of the trib is because that's a 7-year-long deal, the Ezekiel 38 and 39. They're cleaning up, they're doing this. Well, I mean, after 3.5 years, when the abomination of desolation, they're still cleaning up? Or are they going to run for the hills? Because I believe they're going to have all of Canaan left. Not left. They're going to get it back. They're going to have all of Canaan. But all of us will be gone. I don't think Trump will be here. I don't think Bibi will be here. Because those are leaders that are set up. Just like Pharaoh, he was a bad leader. And God in Romans says he was a vessel of destruction. Just like Biden is a vessel of destruction. God already knows that they're going to hell, right? I say that loosely about Biden. But Pharaoh, it's God says. But there are some kings that God sets up to do, and he's like a Cyrus. So Cyrus was a pagan, but then or is that Jehu? Both of them, whatever. Even the Prince of Persia. And that's the only country that has a prince of its own name. Prince of Persia. That's probably why Jesus visits all the Iranians, because there is a prince of Persia, wicked demon prince over them. And they have no means of seeing or knowing Jesus unless Jesus himself has to come to them, because this prince of Persia is okay. So then, anyway, the Ezekiel 38, I think that could happen before the rapture. And I just wanted to point out that if people, I haven't watched those channels in a long time, but they're probably going ape shit about this peace treaty thing, because they were always talking about it and trying to piece it in with something or another, which, technically God makes things look like it all the time, but you can't try to make a square peg fit in a round hole because you want it to be. But anyway, so, like I said, people that want all this peace, be careful what you wish for, is the saying, because to me it's the last Trump. Trump is an image. Biden was sleepy America. An image God gave us, a sign, a message. Trump is a message. Last Trump, y'all, last Trump. Get on the train. Okay? And he's cleaning all this up for the beast. He's cleaning it all up for the beast, to where when the rapture happens, we're all gone. Then there's going to be 3.5 years of everything's nice. Everyone is going to be in love with the Antichrist. They're going to love him, except for the ones that are left behind. Like Joel mentions, people like protagonists or prognostics or something. I know the name, but it escapes me right now. But those people are so weird and they're Christians, so it's going to come upon them like a thief. Okay? Like the verse says. You can probably look up his video if you want. I'm not going to share it right now because, I mean, I could. It's just that some of the things he says I think are a little too harsh. Like his verse video last night, he was saying Trump is a very, however he was describing Trump. Well, to me, that's what men should be like. A godly man should be strong. Men of today want to belittle Trump for being a strong male figure like God wants men to be, because we've been getting the mind parasite that, oh, men are soft. No, men are not supposed to be that kind of soft. They're supposed to be decisive and authoritative like Trump. And even Christian men have the parasitic brain where they have adopted this softer male. I don't know. So I don't agree with how he talks, the adjectives he uses. I don't know if they're derogatory or not. Maybe they're not. Okay, so tonight I didn't like how he was speaking about the Jews, saying, after this, this, and this, if they had repented, if they had humbled themselves, if they had, listen to me. I've heard this for years. I don't agree. That is so wrong when you try to compare if they had humbled. That is not even in the vocabulary. That language should not exist, because clearly in Isaiah 6:9, which Jesus himself quoted, their eyes and ears are going to be closed until the fullness of the Gentiles. So there is no room for any vocabulary such as they should have humbled themselves. No, no, and eternally no. Their eyes and ears are closed, and they will never be open again until Jesus opens them. A few stragglers get to know Jesus, and maybe there is a revival and an outpouring of the Jews knowing Jesus, but I don't know. That might just be somebody's pipe dream. But it even says in Isaiah that I shared, 40 through 45, one of those, some of those, somewhere in that, Jesus, God, I just looked it up. It's Isaiah 42. God is talking to them. He's like, my blind people, my deaf people who see and don't see, who hear and don't hear. God is mocking them because he knows. He got so angry at them being disobedient, lusting after all these beautiful, like I've said before, it was way more beautiful than the world is today. And that's why it was so easy for them to slip into all of that. And God got so sick and tired of it that he finally blinded them and deafened them. And just like when he says, line upon line, precept upon precept, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, here a little, there. He's mocking them. He's mocking them because they were mocking him for talking to him like they're kindergartners. So it is a picture of, and also what other verse it was. He says this a lot anyway. In Genesis, God says to Adam, for thy sake, the ground is cursed, or whatever it was, for thy sake. Okay, so in other words, for the woman's sake, she's suffering in childbirth. He doesn't say that, but that's an example. In other words, for your salvation, for your sake, you're going to have to pay the consequences. Otherwise, if you do not pay the consequences for what you've done, then you're going to burn in hell. That's basically what that means when he says, for your sake, Israel. Sometimes he says, for my name's sake. His name's sake. He's doing it for his own name's sake. So they don't disparage his name's sake, which they are his name's sake. Okay, so that's the only reason I don't like that language when they say that about Jews, as if. they could see to humble themselves. That should not even be any kind of explanation or definition about nothing, because God, just like the prophet Ezekiel, and there was another instance, that prophet Micaiah, um, he says, yeah, go up, you'll win. And they smacked him and said, don't talk to the, he was mocking the king. Ezekiel mocked all those prophets. Jeremiah has mocked. When you're speaking to deaf and blind, people, you kind of mock them. God has done the same thing with the Jews. He'll mock them. Oh, yeah, line upon line, because you're retarded, you're blind, you're dumb, you're deaf. But God loves them so much. Like, he loved them so much, he blinded them and deafened them. Because if he didn't do that, they would piss him off so badly that he would hate them and want to kill them all. But now he has an excuse. When they screw up, he can say, oh, it makes him feel better, in other words, I think is what I'm trying to explain. He's like, I'll make them deaf and blind. Now when they hurt me really bad, I can just mock them and they still won't hear me mocking them because they're deaf and blind, even though I'm still talking to them and telling them to stop sinning, turn from your wicked ways. So see, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. I think he plays with them, even though he knows they're deaf and blind, and he loves them so much being deaf and blind, because it gives him the excuse not to hate them so badly, because now he can say, well, they're deaf and blind. I might as well have some fun with them, because I know in the end I'm going to save them. You know what I mean? But you guys, there's that verse in Isaiah something, and I looked it up, but it's on this phone and I can't use it. But it says something like the shittah tree and the other something, how he skins it, and then he's going to skin it some more, and then it's skin it some more, and it's down to a seed. We already are told how like a third are going to die, then another quarter are going to die. A lot of Jews are going to die. It's going to be very sad. But for their sake, this is what Genesis means. In childbirth, you will be saved. At the end, childbirth, the woman Israel gives birth. She's in travail. She is being saved through the pain. For her sake, childbirth, the pain, she will be saved. But they're going to get massacred. But they go, as soon as that life evaporates in death, they're in the presence of Almighty God. But it is because of their sins they're having to suffer in childbirth. They are the woman that gives birth in the sky, where the dragon sends the flood in Revelation. That is Israel. She is laboring in pain to give birth. All throughout the Bible, it's about labor, and pain. Eve, you will be saved in childbirth. He is prophesying that the Jews will have to suffer immense childbirth pain to be saved. They're going to die. They've been dying. The Holocaust, pogroms, there's always mass amounts of Jews that die. That is for their sake. That is their salvation. We have Jesus as our salvation. They have childbirth all their lives. They are always going to, their salvation is in childbirth. Their salvation is in the pain. Their salvation is in the massacres. They're always going to be stripped, and stripped again. There's always going to only be a remnant, and it's going to be worse. But the good news is is that they don't have to fear death. They are going to know perfection that can't even be described. It's unearthly. No earthling has ever experienced that kind of joy and peace and happiness and love and all kinds of goody. That's why people that want to stay here, it's just retarded. Anyway, and I know the book says, in the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Well, it's been the last days since Jesus left. But I do understand that there are some last days that truly are prophetically end time last days. But I just want to point out, you guys, those things, and also that this thing going on with Iran is twofold. Either way, it's going to be bad. If we lose, which we won't, I'm sure we won't. There's no way. It's all going to end up in beautiful peace treaties. There's going to be a few wrinkles, I'm sure. But I believe this is a symbol and a message from God. Those who are awake and not drunk on this world, asleep spiritually, they need to be revived because they're saved, but they're prodigals, or they're lukewarm, or they're whatever these other groups. They need reviving, and some need reviving because they're lukewarm. Some are just asleep or drunk. And but this, I think, is the last trump. It's a message. If you don't want to see it that way, that's okay. But I see it that way. It's a message from God. It's the last trump. He always uses symbols. And when Trump gets this all cleaned up for the for the first 3.5 years, for the Antichrist, of this peace, and they're going to build a temple and everything's going to be lovely. It's just, I don't know how they're going to explain the rapture and comfort people, but they might talk about the UFOs, maybe not. But if it doesn't work out and there's no peace in the Middle East, it's still bad. Either way, when Jesus comes, everything's going to be going on as usual. There's going to be no lockdowns. There's from COVID, because people weren't able to get out and do, there's not going to be great oppression. There's not going to be an economic collapse. There's not going to be anything bad going on when Jesus comes. That's why he says, if you're not watching and paying attention, I'm coming upon you like a thief. You cannot delete that verse no matter how hard you try. He says, if you're spiritually asleep, you're spiritually drunk, you're lukewarm, you need a reviving, whatever, Jesus will come upon them like a thief. And I already did a video a long time ago about how it was reading in the gospel. If you insert Jesus in it, it's like Matthew 24 or something, 49 and 50. If you insert Jesus and then you keep inserting Jesus, it doesn't match, because one is Jesus and one is, I forgot how I explained it. But anyway, yeah, you guys, this is exciting. So all of us that want this peace, Abrahamic Accords, however you say it, I believe that's going to happen. And like these midterms, I think it's all, this is up to God right now. That's why we don't look at Trump. We can love him like they loved King David. It's not like idol worship. No, they loved their king. We love God for giving us such a good king that we love. People are so hyper scared about, I don't want to worship him, but I do like him. But yeah, well, I worship God. I can't. I gotta find some faults with him so that I don't worship him. Oh my gosh. Well, he's not perfect. It's ridiculous. Just say it. Say, I love him. Everything about him is great. God blessed us with the perfect leader for the end. So we finish short, cut it short in righteousness. And um, he's setting it up for the first 3.5 years of peace and safety, peace treaty signed agreement. And after 3.5 years, when the abomination of desolation with the Antichrist in there, pretending he's God because he got resurrected like Jesus, that'll be a sudden destruction. So basically, God is saying, when they say peace and safety, that's your cue that the trib has begun. But see, Trump, no matter how good he does it, no matter how good God does it through Trump, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be a perfect peace and safety because there's going to be some wrinkles. And that's probably what will be left for the Antichrist to iron out. And it'll look so perfect. And he'll say, now we made this Abraham Accords perfect peace and safety. And when they hear those words, we're probably already gone, but maybe not. When those words are spoken, you will know that the trib has begun, and in 3.5 years, there will be sudden destruction when that Antichrist gets shot, and then he comes back to life like Jesus. And then, like I've said, in the very end, after 1,000 years, I think, or maybe, I don't know when, but the New Jerusalem comes down from heaven, and you can get all the measurements of it in the Bible. It gives the measurements. It's basically a cube. I looked up that thing over there in the Middle East from the Muslims. It's sort of like a rectangle, but it's kind of like a cube, pretty close. The cube, the New Jerusalem that comes down from heaven, I don't remember. I don't pay much attention, but I think it's a perfectly square cube. But see, that Muslim stuff, they're mimicking New Jerusalem, and they say that Abraham helped Ishmael build that. Bullshit. Because Abraham is Ishmael's father, yes. But Ishmael chose to be bitter and angry, and he went away from the God that his father Abraham taught him to worship. He went and served Allah, just like the Jews are always doing. They have the one true God, but they would always serve these other gods, right? That's what Ishmael did. But Ishmael took it a step further. He did it worse. He did it worse. Why? Because it's one God, Allah, one. But the Jews, when they had God, one God, they added multiple gods. Okay, but Ishmael, again, I want to be more, Satan says, I'm going to be like God. Ishmael, he's like, Abraham, my daddy's been teaching me since I was 14 years old. I know about God, but I'm going to make Allah the real God because I'm mad that he kicked me out. And this is another thing. Okay, the genealogies I was telling you about, Pastor Nolan. So remember, Satan says, he's like, I want to be like God. And then the genealogy says something about Abraham and God. And then in Genesis, Adam. Okay, Satan says to them, if you eat this, you will not surely die. You will be like gods. Something's clicking in there, but I don't know what it is. But Satan wanted to be like God. He's trying to entice Eve. Adam is standing right there. He's trying to entice Eve. You're going to be like gods. Satan wanted to be like God. And here he's trying to influence them. Yeah, fall into that sin. Fall into that sin. But Ishmael, he took it a step further. Oh, no, no, no. He doesn't worship any other gods, only this one God, but it's the real God. And look how extreme he is. He's more extreme than any Christian. Too bad us Christians don't know the Bible by heart like they do and pray 5 times a day and are so strict. It is what was the word I was going to say? He's always trying to be better than hard work, like over the top worship. My God is the only one. I kill for it. He's doing all the opposite. He's got a false prophet. There's no Holy Spirit. There's no Son of God. We all know that in Revelation, it's going to be a false prophet, the image of the beast, and the harlot. So the evil trinity is not the harlot. She's not part of it, I don't think. But I think I've said that, but I don't think now that I'm saying it, she's probably not part of the evil trinity. The evil trinity, I think, is the beast, the image of the beast, and the false prophet. So you got the beast, that's Satan. You got the image, that's supposed to Holy Spirit mimicking. And then you've got the false prophet, which is their Jesus imitation. So Satan cannibalizes the other two, the image and the false prophet. He cannibalized to where he's the only one standing. One God. God doesn't cannibalize Jesus and the Holy Spirit and get rid of them. No, they are all together, 3 in 1, and they never separate. Yet they are separate, but they are never separated. One doesn't outdo the other. One doesn't get rid of the other. But see how evil Satan is? He cannibalizes his own Trinity to where he's the one only left God. Ishmael does the same thing. And he mimics a cube and says, my daddy Abraham built it with me. I doubt that. Because Abraham knew about the New Jerusalem coming down, probably. And if he didn't, I'm sure he did. So that thing over there that sometimes looked like it's black, that's already ominous looking enough. But the New Jerusalem is a city of lights. The city of light. It's like a light, and it's a cube, and it comes down in the end, and a lot of people can live in it. People born and died since the beginning of earth, since Adam and Eve, will be in that cube. You can get the measurements in the Bible, and you may think, oh, that's too tiny to fit 6,000 years worth of people in Christ Jesus. But it can, and a lot of animals too. And I don't think that's eternity though. But God is going to make a new heaven and a new earth anyway. And so, but like, I don't know all these things, but I know of them. So there's going to be a new heaven and new earth. There's going to be the New Jerusalem. There's going to be eternity. There's going to be 1,000-year millennium. There's all kinds of different things, okay? And you can figure those out. But I'm just telling you, I'm pointing out to you these two things, that what Trump is doing, Trump is going to get this Middle East. That's probably why I felt so strongly about it. Not only that, I saw the signs in the beginning. As soon as he stepped off that elevator in 2015, I was never political. I never paid. It was like football. Gross, turn it off. Sorry if I'm offending somebody, but I'm like, oh, I can't stand sports on TV. I'd play them, but I don't want to watch them. So anyway, I don't play football though. But I'm saying that politics to me were disgusting. I'm like, ugh, I don't like politics. Ew, I don't want to learn about the Constitution. I didn't want nothing like that. But when Trump, I looked, I saw him, I'm like, it was a spirit thing. God is like going bam, bam, bam. Wake up, wake up. This is the beginning of the end. Wake up. Now, I was looking for the rapture all for years. I was probably looking for the rapture then. Of course I was, but I'm saying I don't know why, but God drew me to him, and God knew that I would understand that I am so far away from politics. I can't stand that. It was just like nails on a chalkboard to me. I cared nothing about it. And God knew that I would put that together, that He wanted me to see this man. He wanted me to see this man and to pay attention to politics. And I stopped hating politics. I stopped hating them instantly. And God knew I would recognize that as a message to say that He is telling me that this is serious. This is serious. This man here is serious. God was telling me. He knew I'd hear it. He knew I would know it, what He meant. He was trying to tell me, I'm serious about this president. This is a serious thing right here. So ever since then, I don't doubt things that Trump does. A few times, yeah, like I think he should have not helped Gaza in the beginning when he first got into office. I think he should have helped Israel sooner than he did, but I'll tell you how I said about my other video, how I said as soon as I posted that video and then a day later, it seems like Trump is talking whatever that Dr. J said. And there's so many things that I have said on my videos, and then like a day or two later, Trump or somebody else is saying it. For instance, I had said, and sometimes I've looked back on my videos just to make sure. Every now and then I'll try to find them because I can't always, and I don't want to spend too much time because I'm not that serious about it. But every time I'm always curious if it's been a long time, because when it first happens, I know for sure. But when time passes, I get kind of cloudy. So, for instance, when I said you're poking the apple of God's eye, I did a video before that about something similar. And then it seems like after I said that, bam, Trump started going after Iran. And then at that moment, I recognize it every time. Every time I recognize when I've said something in a video and a few days later I'll hear it or something, or it'll start happening. I always recognize it, but it's not like I go, oh la la, and it's it, I don't. So I forget. I forget the date. I forget the time, and then every now and then I'll go, I want to know because, but in my heart I do already know that the videos, okay, in other words, the videos that God shows me in my feed, like I was explaining to you 30 minutes ago, um, I'll see it on the TV, like TBN, their news, or I'll see it in one of these video feeds that I may not have normally clicked on that day, even though I'm subbed to them. It's almost like God will point a video out to me, and then when I click on it, it is about what well, it was probably on the news when Trump does stuff. Anyway, so not that kind of news. I don't really watch mainstream news. But anyway, you guys, I knew from the beginning, God told me there's something. I don't want it to sound like there's something about this man. I don't know how to put it into words. But because God knew that I was not political and I don't like that, because the fact that God pointed that out to me let me know that this is different. This is different. So it was just a personal message to me. So yeah, I wasn't happy about Trump not going after Iran immediately. I wasn't happy about people feeding Gaza, but I didn't give a crap about Biden. I knew that was judgment, and I was hoping the rapture would happen. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'm just saying, I guess, um, um, I think I went off on a bunny trail, and now I didn't even finish the bunny trail. But yeah. Oh, because this this is serious, and I feel like in my heart, from the depths of my heart, if God talks to me at all, at all, at all, at all, if he talks to me at all, he is telling me that this is going to be done. It's just some feeling you'll get when you know God is serious about something. Like, he's very serious about Trump. He's very serious about Bibi. He's very serious about Reza. He is very serious about these people, these leaders. He is so serious about these leaders because they are doing something. If you can't see it, then you're not paying attention. You can almost see God working, and it's almost like they're the puppet and God is inside of them doing all the moves. Meaning they have their own personalities and their own will and their own smarts and their own brain, and that's why he chose them. But God fine-tuned. He picked the best, and then he picks the best because he knows that they're going to do it. But he works through them because he knows they're going to do the crazy hard stuff that God is going to ask them to do, no matter what the people want to whine and cry about gas prices. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. He chose these people because he knows he knows how he made them. He knows their moral compass. He knows their mentality. He knows their brain. He knows their intellect and their will and their strength. And he knows that when he asks them to do, because trust me, we can read it in the Bible, the kings that didn't want to do things God asked them to do, because King Saul, he's like, but the people, oh, but I wanted, oh, but this. Kings can get persuaded by the people, and God is like, listen, I can't have you guys influenced by people right now. I need somebody who's not going to be influenced by the whiny butt, maggot infested brained people, parasitic brains that have a shallow mentality. I need these men that they're so bold and so strong that if I do happen to veer off a little in left field, they will do it, no matter how crazy it sounds, because that's their constitution. They beat to another drum. They don't follow, they lead. Okay? And I'm sure God is giving them extra, what do you call it, guidance. He's not just choosing them because they're strong. He also chooses them because he can guide them. He knows that when he guides them and leads them into a crazy idea, he puts a thought in their mind, he knows they're bold enough to do it, instead of saying, oh, but what do people think? Oh, but wait, I'm going to piss somebody off. No, God knows that they won't think that way when he gives them an idea or some guide. Okay, so you get the point. All right, well, God bless you guys, and I hope those were some fun things to maybe get your ideas flowing and juices flowing and revelation and all this birth pain stuff, and you can read Genesis yourself. There's lots of other stuff, and maybe I will do a video eventually when I get around to it. So And like I said, every time I read it, it seems like tonight I was listening and reading and I was like, God didn't create the water. It was like, you guys, it's crazy. Genesis, I think, is the Genesis. You know the word, the definition, Genesis? Genesis truly is Genesis. You guys, there's probably infinite amounts of knowledge in every word, every sentence of those first 4 chapters or something. I mean, that book is supernatural. You pick it up and like 5 minutes ago you read that and you're like, oh, it's that reminds me of this and that you guys, it is a very miraculous book. It has some amazing things in it that you keep continually uncovering, and then some more things I'm still racking my brain about that I can't rest. And I pray, I'm like, God, I know there's something in there in that one little phrase. What is it? Kind of deal. Anyway, okay, I'm burning up in here. God bless you guys and love you all. And I'm praying. I'm covering all bases with the brokenhearted and the undo heavy burdens, let oppressed go free, and the orphans and the widows. To me, you want to pray for, oh, the children in Africa or the this over there, and but that list, God is perfect. You don't have to say, oh, well, God strengthen them and do this and do that. No, that list covers it all. Loose bonds of wickedness, undo heavy burdens, let oppressed go free, break every yoke, heal the brokenhearted, bind up their wounds, save the crushed in spirit. Bam, you're done. You don't, I mean, we got so much to pray for. Jesus never put the weight of the world on our shoulders. So he does all that stuff through the dignities, through the cabinet members, through the law enforcement, and through us, disciples, laborers, and servants. And for the orphan, the widow, he even mentions fatherless. He mentions oppressed. But then again, go back to let the oppressed go free. But he mentions fatherless, orphan, widow, poor, highways and hedges, and brethren in bonds. He doesn't say pray for the martyrs. Well, the martyrs, they get a martyr's crown. Or the persecuted Christian. I don't think, but sure, we can pray for the persecuted Christians. But if you go by that template, it covers the person. He says so many verses, blessed are you when you're persecuted for righteousness' sake. So I don't pray for people who are persecuted for Christ's sake, because that's a blessing. Why am I going to try to pray their blessing away? Oh God, don't let them be persecuted anymore. Huh. And if they end up being persecuted so badly that they get killed and martyred, they get a martyr's crown. I'm not going to pray that away off of them, but I am going to pray for laborers. And I'm going to pray for the things he says to pray for. And that includes the poor, the widow, the orphan, the highways and hedges, the brethren in bonds. That means they're in prison for preaching the gospel. Now in Iran, some of them may not be Christians, so they're technically not brethren, but because Jesus, well, I mean, and then those other African countries where they're, yeah, all the Christians are getting persecuted and killed. That's different. They're not getting put in prison, and plus that they're blessed by being persecuted. But the Iranians, I know God, Jesus, he has his throne there, because the Bible verse says he has his throne there. I know those prisoners. Yes, I do say I add them for extra, but there are Christian Iranians in prison over there. But I do pray for, they're getting executed every day. But I have a feeling God's throne's there, like he says, and I have a feeling Jesus is flashing in their face before they are executed, and if they're not already a believer. And yeah, so, but yes, I like, there's a lady on JNS television who really is brokenhearted over that. That's on her heart a lot, like the hostages were on my heart. And there was something else I was going to say about that. Like the way the Jews, I can't remember, but it had to do with like the tribulation. They just basically, whenever you feel like, I've said this many times before, whenever you feel like you've got it bad, think about somebody like that hostage, that Jewish hostage. So, yeah, the Jews that are in the tribulation because of Jacob's trouble for their sake, they're going through Jacob's trouble because they're blind and deaf, because God made them that way. Okay, so, or did it that way. Isaiah 6:9. Jesus quotes Isaiah 6:9. Because of that, they are going to have to suffer. They have suffered severely. They are pretty much, because they rejected Christ, because Jesus prophesied it. They're basically, that's why they think Isaiah 53 is speaking to Israel, because Jesus, by golly, is going to make them suffer like he suffered. He's going to be like, you don't want to accept me? I'm going to make you drink of my cup then. I'm going to make you drink of my cup, and you are going to be marred more than any man, any human on this earth has never been marred, killed off as much as the Jews. So I forgot what the correlation I was going to, but maybe it'll come to me another time and I'll tell you about it. Okay, love you guys. And whatever your problems are, the Jews have had it way worse than anybody. They were the first slaves. Probably. Maybe there were slaves before that, because, anyway, my nose, I have this thing. Okay, anyway. God bless you guys, and I love you, and I'm praying for everybody every day on my list thing, how I just described it. I've put it in my posts before, the people I feel like God told me. And like I said, if anybody says that there's other people the Bible talks about praying for, tell me, and I'll add them. But as far as I know, reading the Bible, those are the only ones he names. And all those, out of those categories, it covers everybody, not only, maybe not all categories, but if it's not covering that category, it means that they have to suffer. Jew and Gentile, we all have to suffer. Why do you want to pray somebody out of their pruning process or their punishment or they made the bed, they got to lay in it? I'm not going to do things outside of the outline of God's Bible. I don't want to add things and go off in left field about praying about all kinds of things in the world, that the weight of the world is on my shoulders. Jesus never told us to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. But I am adding the Iranian prisoners for that, because that lady on JSN. So, all right, bye. Love you guys. God bless you. Bye.